Years ago, I was part of a retreat for people who had had abortions, and it was all about healing. And so I was there to be the spiritual father. There were women who were actually leading the retreat. And on the final day, the participants were invited to write letters to their children and to give them names. And during the Mass, I said to the women, I said, imagine if your children were to write a letter to you. I think it would go something like this. Mom, I'm okay. Mom, I'm with Jesus. I forgive you. I love you. I can't wait to be with you again, God willing, in heaven. The Anglican priest who was with us, he complimented me for those words. They were part of the high point of the retreat. And I said to him, Father Trevor, those words came from God. They were not from me. God was just working through me. And so when it comes to the subject of abortion, subject of life, all of us have something to share. So my role as a priest, I have to talk about right and wrong. And then I also have to talk about God's mercy, because every sin can be forgiven. We know that, right? Of course, the sin of abortion, of course it can be forgiven. And I want you to start thinking about, all of you, what you could offer to this topic, because you have something to offer. And we'll come back to that in a minute. Jesus teaches his disciples today, you are the salt of the earth. But if salt has lost its taste, how can its saltiness be restored? It is no longer good for anything, but is thrown out and trampled underfoot. So disciples of Jesus, like salt, are supposed to preserve the world morally. And if you think about it, no one has ever come up with a better moral teaching than Jesus. Like in 2,000 years, we've advanced in technology, we've advanced in science, but not in morality. Jesus has set the best standard ever. So if we are his disciples, we have to try to live up to that standard, and we have to call the world to try to live up to that standard too. The scripture scholar, Dr. John Bergsma, he says that in today's gospel, there's a lot of imagery about the temple. So there's a picture of the temple in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. And what's great about this image is it captures that beauty, because in the gospel, there's one person who says, Master, look how it's adorned with noble stones. So this picture really captures it. And during the sacrifices in the temple, when they would sacrifice the animals, they would add salt, because that salt would preserve the animals, and the animals would be later eaten. And so when Jesus says to all of us, you're the salt of the earth. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to transform the world into a temple, and we're going to offer up sacrifices to God. And what are those sacrifices? It's good works. It's love. And then Jesus says, you are the light of the world. A city built on a hill cannot be hidden. A city. Jerusalem is built on a hill, and I looked it up. It's about 760 meters high, so it's about halfway up Grouse Mountain, so pretty high. It's much higher than, let's say, Burnaby Mountain. And so you could imagine Jerusalem's that high, and it's all surrounded by valleys, so it looks like a city on a hill. It literally is. And once a year, during the Jewish Feast of Tabernacles, the whole city would be lit up for 24 hours with candles. And they would have some large candles that men would have to get up on ladders to light. And so Jesus says, a city set on the hill cannot be hidden. Well, that's what we're supposed to be like. And if you know the Bible, what's really interesting, remember when Jesus says in John chapter 8, I am the light of the world. You know when he says that? During the Feast of Tabernacles. It's really cool, because everyone's seeing this 24 hours of candlelight, and then he says, I am the light of the world. And today he adds, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven. And so when it comes to the topic of abortion and life, you have something to offer. Let's say you're good at listening. If you are, please listen to people's stories and help them. If you're good at explaining, please help people to understand. Let's say you've had a difficult pregnancy. Share that story. Or you've had difficulty conceiving. Share that story about the importance of life. If you have come from, let's say, a foreign country where preborn babies are more respected than in Canada, share how your culture views life. Because here in Canada, you can have an abortion anytime from conception to 9 months. We have the most liberal abortion laws in the world. And finally, If you have had an abortion or you've been involved in an abortion yourself, and you have experienced God's mercy and healing, and if you are willing and able, can you please think about sharing that story? Because your light might be the only light that can help people. The French Catholic writer Francois Mauriac said, "The day when you no longer burn with love, others will die of cold." The day when you no longer burn with love, others will die of cold. I'm going to show you a 3-minute video right now. It's about a baby who was born prematurely and with disabilities. And it's wonderful that his parents share this story because it gives light to all people. And it's about the dignity of a preborn child. Here we go.
Dear Elliot, right now you are 2 months from being born. We just found out that you have trisomy 18, also called Edwards syndrome. Doctors tell us that you won't likely make it to birth. Your mom and I are praying against that. We're praying for healing. We are praying for nothing less than a miracle. You're our first child, and the day of your birth couldn't come sooner. Dear Elliot, you were born today weighing in at 6 pounds. You are already a miracle to us. Your mom is doing well, and it looks like we'll be hanging out here at the hospital a little longer. Dear Elliot, today you turned 11 days old. We are so proud of you. Today we celebrated your 11th birthday. In fact, we do that every day at 4:59, the time you were born. Dear Elliot, I don't know if you've noticed, but you're connected to some tubes. The doctors say we have to keep these in so you can get oxygen to breathe. You are also fed through a feeding tube. We feed you every 3 hours and it takes an hour and a half to do it. We've loved learning how to best take care of you. We love it. At 2 a.m. this morning, your feeding tube came out. We had been warned this may happen eventually. We quickly realized we did not have a stethoscope, which was necessary to replace the tube. Since our neighbor was a nurse, I went ahead and knocked on their door at 2:30 a.m. They found their stethoscope and your mom went to it. After much wrestling, praying, and your tears, the tube was down, and you were able to feed. Just so you know, your mom is my hero. You finally learned how to suck your thumb by yourself. Because of trisomy 18, you were born with clenched fists, and being able to do this is actually quite difficult. Way to go, son. Dear Elliot, I realize you can get frustrated with your tubes and your frequent congestion. Please know that your mom and I are doing everything we can to make you comfortable. Dear Elliot, today you went to be with Jesus. An underdeveloped lung, a heart with a hole in it, and DNA that placed faulty information into each and every cell of your body could not stop God from revealing himself through a child who never uttered a word. Not a pulpit, not a slick presentation, not a best-selling book, but a 6-pound boy with trisomy 18. God found great pleasure to take a lowly thing in the eyes of the world and show truth. At your funeral, we released 99 balloons, each balloon representing a day of your life. How beautiful it was to watch. How quickly they were gone.
One time I went to BC Women's Hospital because one of our parishioners there had a stillbirth, and I saw something very beautiful. The hospital does an incredible job of taking care of a family who's just had a tragedy. So the room they were in is like way better than a regular hospital room. It's quiet, it's beautiful, and it's peaceful. And then they had this professional photographer come in and take pictures with the family and their child who has died. And I thought, that's the way it should be. But why is it that in the exact same hospital, a child of the same age, if the parents want, can be aborted? So let's see if we can shed a bit more light on this discrepancy. When a woman has a miscarriage, it's a tragedy because it's a baby. But when, let's say, a woman has an abortion of the exact same age of the child, it's not a baby. In 2020, Meghan Markle, who's very pro-abortion, she wrote this: "After changing my son's diaper, I felt a sharp cramp. I dropped to the floor with him in my arms. I knew as I clutched my firstborn child, I was losing my second. Losing a child means carrying an almost unbearable grief, experienced by many but talked about by few. And the reason why I'm quoting Meghan Markle is because even she, who's so in favor of abortion, realizes that when her child died, it's a child. So whenever we talk about life and abortion, let's start with common ground. What do we all agree on? If a woman has a miscarriage, it's a baby. And then we're going to find out, okay, well, let's find out where we disagree. Why is Meghan Markle suffering? She lost a child. So if a child is aborted, why is it not a child anymore? We have to pause on this. Why is one a baby, one isn't? Why does one have human rights? Why does one not? Often people, when they're forced to talk about this question, they'll say, but what if the woman is being raped? And we'll say, rape is of course awful, and the rapist should be thrown in jail. But let's ask ourselves, why do we give the death penalty to the child? Or they'll say, but if the mother is in poverty, you can't force her to have a child. And then we would ask a question. Let's say the woman is in the exact same state of poverty and has a newborn infant. Could she then kill her child because she's in poverty? No. And they'll say, it's because it's a fetus. It's not a person. Okay, let's clarify something about the word fetus. Fetus does not mean it's not a child. It just means it's the level of development of a person. It goes fetus, newborn, infant, toddler, etc. Dolphins have fetuses. Dogs have fetuses. It just indicates level of development, not what a thing is. I'm going to show you now a second video. It's a funny one. It's very revealing. It's also frustratingly sad. It's about this guy who asks people if they will protect like preborn eagles.
We have a petition to stop the killing of eagles, like eagle eggs. You know, people disturb them or they destroy them. These eagles haven't been born yet, like they have rights, you know, everything. Like we don't think that they should be harmed, or there should be harsher penalties for those kind of things. Would you guys agree?
Huh? Yeah, sure.
Awesome. If you guys agree, we have a pen right here.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome.
Don't kill eagles.
Yeah, don't kill eagles, right? Eagles have rights too. So here's a pen.
Eagles are people too.
Yeah, eagles are people too. And so I didn't know if you guys would want to sign this for sure. Yeah, definitely.
Best of luck. I hope you save the eagles.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And we actually, let me just talk to you real quick. We have one other petition about stopping the killing of humans too.
Oh my god.
Like babies. We want to protect their rights too, even though being like unborn.
Wait,
so I know if you would
I
want
don't agree with that.
You don't agree with that?
No, I'm pro-abortion. Sorry.
Oh, fair enough. Why do you?
Is this awkward now?
Oh no, I
Like-
don't agree.
You don't agree?
I fully support abortion.
Why do you support not the killing of unborn eagles, but the killing of unborn children?
I think it's the mother's decision.
I think because there's specific rape isn't considered when you're talking of, eagles aren't raped.
I think that's true.
A human woman should have more rights, probably, than a bald eagle.
Okay, so notice how they can't stay on topic. They realize that they've got a double standard. They want to protect preborn eagles, but not preborn children. So they have to shift the subject. So one of them said, it's the mother's decision. Of course it's the mother's decision. We're just saying that some decisions are not right. It's not a good decision. It's not a moral decision to kill a preborn baby. Another one said, well, anyone can make the decision about their own body. But the child in the womb is not the woman's body. That's why the child has its own head, has its own heart, it has its own limbs. Meghan Markle, when she had her miscarriage, she was not sad about losing her own body. She lost her child's body. One of them said, a woman should have more rights than an eagle. Of course, that's obvious, but no one should have a right to kill an innocent person. And one thing we took out in this video is one of the women said to the guy, she said, you're not a woman, so you'd have no idea. You've heard that one a lot? So men shouldn't speak up. Here's the thing, you don't have to be an addict to help people with addictions. And thank God, in the past few years here in Canada, maybe you found out men can give birth now, right? That's what the mainstream media is telling us. So CTV has this article, I'm quoting, "Fertility, pregnancy, and childbirth are not solely experienced by women." Huh, wow, cool. And advocates and experts say that it's time to change the narrative to be more gender inclusive. Great. Pregnancy is portrayed as something that only happens for women, end quote. So I guess I can say now, as a man who gives birth, I want to throw in my own 2 cents. Okay? So here's the thing. Jesus told us to be the salt of the earth, not the sugar of the earth. And that means when these kinds of arguments totally descend into absurdity, let's just bring them back to reality and back to the level of facts. So this website here, it just has all these embryology textbooks. The fact is, they all state the obvious. All these embryology medical textbooks just state life begins at conception. 2 weeks from now, we're going to actually show pictures and videos of actual abortions and actual aborted babies. Why? Just to focus on the facts. We've done this for the past 2 years. We've always given everyone warning, but especially for the parents. If you've got young children, you don't want them to see this. In 2 weeks, February 18th and 19th, we'll do it. So just to give you, fair warning. As we mentioned last week, we're going to have our 40 Days for Life vigil. So it's just our peaceful vigil outside of BC Women's Hospital. This year we're starting Thursday, February 23rd. We're going to try and take 7 days. We're challenging ourselves to take one more day extra than last year. We're going to go from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So you've got these cards in your pews. If you're sitting in the middle, could you just hand them out to the people next to you just so that they can see them, please? Oh, you've got them at the ends. Sorry. Well, pass them out nevertheless, just so that people can see it. We're going to ask about this for the next 3 weeks. If you're able to sign up, praise God. You might not want to sign up today. That's totally fine. We're just asking for your name, phone number, email, what day, and what start time you might take. So again, if you want to, you fill it out. You can put it in the collection basket or at the box at the back. Serena here is in charge of the 40 Days for Life vigil, and she's graciously offered to share her story about adoption. It's a wonderful story, and it's another reason why we don't need abortion. So we just want to thank Serena in advance for having the courage to let God's light shine through her story. Thank you.